Ladies and gentlemen, people are very angry about politics. Quote, "You're awake right now, you're not dead, and you haven't gone to hell," unquote, said Rachel Maddow, a former host on CNN following the 2016 election. Donald Trump had similar words following the 2020 election. Quote, "You're not going to have a country anymore," unquote. Late night host Jimmy Kimmel wept after the 2024 election. Quote, "It was a terrible night for women and children, for poor people, for the middle class, for democracy and decency," unquote. Here, Rachel Maddow, Donald Trump, and Jimmy Kimmel made sensational claims. They didn't make their claims to resolve a problem. Instead, they wanted to create drama, and they achieved it by displaying shock and anger to the cameras. This is false outrage. Even though false outrage is designed for the cameras, it influences others. Actually, it doesn't influence them, it infects them. False outrage is a disease. We'll start by looking at the diagnosis of this disease in our culture, move on to its symptoms, and conclude with the cure. If American culture could walk into a doctor's office, it would come away with a severe diagnosis of false outrage. Outrage is everywhere. A study in Science magazine by Killian McLaughlin and her colleagues found that, quote, "social media posts that express outrage are liked and shared more, training users to express more outrage and ranking algorithms to amplify it," unquote. For example, Benny Johnson, a conservative podcaster, uses false outrage to attract viewers. One of his recent videos featured an AI-generated thumbnail of California Governor Gavin Newsom angrily holding a dollar bill which was burning in front of the Hollywood sign, which was also burning. In another, Donald Trump in Eskimo clothing screams along with Vladimir Putin. This doesn't make any sense. But Benny Johnson has 15 million followers. Unfortunately, false outrage doesn't stay online. Humans copy the behaviors and worldviews of the people they spend their time around. And because talk show hosts and media figures consume a significant portion of many people's days, their worldview seeps into the culture. Unfortunate statistics demonstrate this. According to the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, the free speech organization, quote, "this year more than 2/3 of students, 68%, said that shouting down a speaker is at least rarely acceptable," unquote. The report noted that these numbers have increased over the past few years. I've experienced false outrage in public. 3 years ago, my grandparents and I went to the March for Life in Washington, D.C. After the march ended, I decided to keep my poster as a souvenir. A woman saw my poster and began screaming at me. Likely her beliefs came from political commentators online, but they caused her to take action in the real world. She believed yelling at 14-year-olds makes you a better person. Now that we've diagnosed our culture with false outrage, let's talk about the symptoms. Those would be an inability to have constructive conversations and a belief that false outrage makes us good people. As writers for The Minimalist, a blog that encourages simple living, put it, quote, "we've all gotten offended without asking ourselves why, and then use our fake outrage to cast judgment upon others. It helps us feel better. And pretending to be offended is much easier than attempting to breach the walls of introspection," unquote. When we pretend to be outraged, we don't have to reason through our beliefs. Piers Morgan, the very British host of a political show with 4 million followers, uses outrage to avoid hard questions. In 2017, when a guest on his show questioned Piers' stance on gun policy, Piers responded, "How dare you?" his face tightening for the camera. And his guest answered, "Well, Piers, you can keep saying that, but my point still stands." He didn't address the point. Again, "How dare you?" he repeated. Nothing Piers Morgan said advanced the debate. Instead, he used outrage to shield himself, because outrage is easier than analysis. I've seen this personally, too. I was sitting in on a committee hearing at the U.S. House of Representatives, just observing, as several experts explained developments in nuclear technology. Many of the Congress people did what you'd expect. politely ask questions. But one congresswoman decided to yell at the experts. She was angry about nuclear contamination in her district. Ignoring the committee chairman, she went overtime, outraged, and finally stormed out of the room. Wow. She missed out on an opportunity to learn about nuclear power because she was angry. So that's another symptom. Humans express outrage because we think it makes us feel better. That's crazy, but this is what the research shows. A study by psychologist Joshua Grubbs and his colleagues found that public figures express outrage at our enemies found that public figures express outrage at their enemies so that their own group applauds to them. When they condemn some far-off event, they receive praise for their bravery and courage. Stephen Colbert, another late-night host, has done exactly that. After Donald Trump held a rally at Madison Square Garden in New York City, Colbert quipped on his show, quote, "I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but in 1939 they held a pro-Nazi rally there," unquote. With this remark, Colbert insinuated that Trump is Nazi-adjacent, having created a straw man out of Trump, an evil Nazi. Stephen Colbert spared no words, swearing at Trump live on national television. His statements make sense because his worldview treats outrage as virtuous. Author Glenn Beck describes the human effect of false outrage in his book, Addicted to Outrage. Quote, "It deprives human beings of genuine humanity, replacing that instead with an outwardly facing caricature of a virtuous human being wrapped around a rotting corpse." Unquote. This twisted worldview has morality backwards. False outrage replaces good deeds with outraged words. The culture celebrates false outrage. Politicians and media figures promote it. They don't deserve all the blame. But their worldview does deserve the blame. Their worldview is false. Fake outrage is not a virtue, and moral grandstanding is not a good deed. This moral confusion has eroded the genuine compassion of millions and transformed it into outrage. But I wouldn't have accomplished anything if I told you should be outraged at false outrage. That would be a lame cure to this sickness. I used to be addicted to outrage. I was angry at every news story. I debated every little detail. Thankfully, I was convicted after reading Glenn Beck's book, Addicted to Outrage. I realized what I had been doing. Quote, "Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things," says Colossians 3 verse 2. I made a pledge to stop being outraged at earthly things. Imagine if everyone stopped practicing false outrage. If everyone stopped being so angry. If we calmly discussed difficult questions and stopped believing our outrage makes us good people. That's the world I want to live in. And that world is only possible if you help build it. To take a quote from Darth Vader in Star Wars completely out of context, quote, "With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy." Unquote. You won't improve the world by being angry. You'll make the world a better place if you have calm discussions. Actually do good deeds. And focus on something higher than the next controversy. False outrage is not worth it. Life is too beautiful to waste being angry.